Hello and welcome to my course, Learn How to Program with Kotlin. My name is John and I'm going to be your instructor. When I was thinking about how to create a course to teach programming, what I really wanted to focus on was to make sure that people weren't bogged down on setup and installation and trying to get things up and running. So this course actually does not require any setup on your part. Everything that we're going to do is going to be in the browser. This course is for absolute beginners, so no previous programming experience is required, and this is part 0, the introduction. So what is programming? That's actually a little bit difficult to define, but what I like to define it as is interacting with the computer to make it do what you want. With that definition, you might think that everything is programming, but when people say programming, what they usually mean is you creating some code to teach the computer or to tell the computer to do something. This can be done with a variety of different programming languages, one of which we are going to use today, and that language is called Kotlin. So why should you learn how to program? Well, it's an extremely valuable skill in today's world. I really can't emphasize that enough. Every single day we come across tons of different things that were created by programmers, like buying a ticket from a public transport machine in the city, or using an app, or using a website. All of that stuff had a programmer behind it that was coding and teaching the computer to do exactly what the programmer wanted the computer to do. Programming is also lots of fun. That's how I got into it. I started creating websites. I really enjoyed it. And then I realized that I wanted to do more complicated things, and I wanted to see how far I could push myself and also push the computer. And what I realized is this stuff is crazy fun, and I think that anybody in the world, if they really give programming a try, they will also really enjoy it and also really find it to be lots of fun. It also leads to great jobs, high-paying jobs with great colleagues, great benefits. Just a lot of great stuff happens in programming jobs. I think a lot of people would benefit from getting a job in programming. You have a chance to affect society and affect millions of people through your code in a very positive and great way. Here are some of the highlights of some of the things that you can make if you become a programmer. One of them is apps. Apps is something that we use every single day, whether it's to take notes or to play a game, or it could be an app to teach you a language. Apps are created by programmers on Android devices or on iOS devices, and all of that stuff is created through code. The coding language, for example, for iOS is Swift, and the one for Android is the one that we're going to touch on today, which is Kotlin. You can also create websites if you become a programmer and if you become good at programming. Websites are something that everybody uses every single day. A programmer could do, for example, CSS and HTML to create designs for a website. A programmer could also work on the back end of a website, meaning when a user clicks on something, we need to, for example, pull up that user's data, and that data needs some sort of a service in the background, a program running on a server to deliver that data to the website. And that is, for example, what I do for a living, which is back-end engineering. But websites are also created by programmers, and most of the time you can separate website programmers into two different camps. One of them would be the front-end engineers, and the other would be the back-end engineers. Video games is also a huge category. Lots of people that I know got into programming because they wanted to create video games, and that's also something that you could learn how to do if you learn how to program. And finally, you can automate your tasks and your work. You don't necessarily have to learn programming to create an app or a website or a video game. You can learn how to program and learn how to streamline your life and learn how to teach computers to do things that you have to do all of the time that are repetitive tasks, and it can save you a lot of money and a lot of stress. This is probably my favorite question to answer. Is programming hard? Well, in my opinion, absolutely anybody can learn how to program, but that doesn't really answer the question. Yes, it can be difficult, but it depends. Like a lot of things, some things in programming are very easy to learn at first, but quickly you will realize that things can get really complicated. It's a skill that really takes time to learn, I do promise that it's easier than people imagine, but it does require a lot of persistence. If you're somebody that gets easily frustrated with puzzles and with trying new things out, programming is probably not for you. But to be honest, nothing worth doing in life really truly is easy. So right now you're probably wondering, well, how can I get started? The first thing you need to do is pick a language. For today's purposes and for the purposes of this course, we are actually going to use a language called Kotlin. Kotlin is a language that I really enjoy. I use it at work all of the time. It is kind of similar to Java. Java is an extremely popular language. You've probably heard of Java before. Other languages you've probably heard of before are JavaScript or Python or Ruby. But for today's purposes, we are going to try writing some code using the Kotlin language. So what I would like you guys to do is to go to this website right here. This is play.kotlinlang.org. play.kotlinlang.org. And what this is going to allow us to do is to create some code and to play around with it without having to install or set up anything, which I think is a really fantastic thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to create some very small quote-unquote programs. So the first thing I want to teach you guys is how to print a welcome message. So what we need to do, well, first off, we need to get rid of those things right there, is we need to write print ln. The ln actually stands for line. So what we're doing right now is we are using a function that will take as input something that we write, a string, and we'll print it out to the screen. So for example, let's write welcome to my first program. And now let's go to the top right here and click on run. Look at that. Welcome to my first program. Good job. But that was kind of trivial, so let's try something a little bit more interesting. Let's reverse the letters of your name. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up a pair of quotes. Yeah, great. Then type in your name. For example, my name is John. Then just follow along. Don't worry too much about the syntax or understanding this stuff. What I really want to do right now is just to show you all of the things that you can do when writing code. All of the possible things you can do when writing code. So let's do dot as iterable, and then let's select reversed. Now if we run this right now, what you're going to realize is nothing is going to print out, which is kind of weird. But then you look at this again and you realize, okay, if I want to print something out, I need to wrap it in a print line. I usually just say println, but either one's totally fine. So print line, and now what we expect to see is the letters of my name reversed. Excellent, look at that. You can also do some math. So once again, I need to get rid of these lines. It's annoying. Let's do something like print line. Let's do 2020, which is the current year, and multiply that by 2. So we expect that in our console down here, this is the console, we are going to see 4040. Look at that, 4040. All right, the next task that we're going to work on is to create a list and modify it. So don't worry too much about what a list actually means. For the purposes of this tutorial, a list just means a series of items kind of put together into one variable. So think of like a shopping list, for example. Let's say you need to shop for some bread, some peanut butter, and some jelly. Those are all items in a list. But what I want to do is I want to create a list of numbers. And an easy way to do that is called an int range. Int stands for integer. Let's go from 1 to 10. Okay, excellent. Then we need to turn this into an iterable. And then I'm going to do something called a map. A map actually allows me to modify this list and to do something with it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to multiply each of these items by 2. So all of this probably looks like voodoo and like magic to you right now, but please don't be too worried about it. We're going to go through all of these kinds of things later on in the course. Right now, I really just want to show you all the cool things that are possible to do with programming. Oh, there you have it. Here's our list: 2, 4, 6, 8, yada, yada, yada. So now we want to remove the letter A from a word. Okay. Let's try that out. Let's take the word astronaut, for example, because that has A in it twice. Then what we could do is we can do something called a replace. What we want to replace is the letter A, and we want to replace it with nothing. So this open quote, close quote is the equivalent of nothing. But again, we need to wrap this in a print line, or else we are actually not going to see anything. Astronaut. Yep, spelled it right. We run this, and Stronet pops out. Look at that. Pretty cool. So now we want to print out the current time. Interesting. How would we actually accomplish that? Well, we are going to have to use Java for that. So again, I'm not really going to go into too many of the details. I just want to show you guys everything that's possible to do, or at least some examples of things that are possible to do. So now what I've done here is I have imported something from Java in order to be able to create a local date time object, an instance of that object. We're going to go over all of this stuff later on, but for now, just know that I need to pull this in, import this from Java in order to do something with time. So that probably all still sounds like alien stuff to you if this is the first time you've ever worked with a programming language, but rest assured we will go over it. So again, let's do a print line, and let's do a local date time, and let's do now. So actually what we expect to see right now is the current time, and look at that, 2020 January 5th. Excellent. Okay, so now let's do something where there's some repetition involved. I need to scroll down here a little bit, get rid of these things. All right, so let's say that we wanted to repeat "Are we there yet?" Many times over. Let's say we wanted to repeat that 10 times over. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an int range, like you saw before, from 1 to 10. And then we are going to iterate over this. And don't worry, we are going to go over this stuff very soon. And now every single time, so for all 10 of these elements, we are going to output "Are we there yet?" So that's actually what this means. This for each, it runs on each of the elements of this list right here, this list of numbers. So actually these numbers could be the numbers 390 through 400, and that would actually be the exact same thing as 1 through 10, because you'd still be running it 10 times. So let's go ahead and play that, and let's see what happens. Oh, look at that. "Are we there yet?" has been outputted 10 times. Really cool. Well, super good job. Before we go, let's write a message to say program is done. All right, one more time, scroll to the bottom, program is done. Congratulations, you've just written your first few lines of code using the Kotlin language. So to summarize, programming is interacting with a computer to make it do what you want. Programming is fun, it's challenging, and it's lucrative, to be quite honest. Programming jobs are easy to come by. There's a lot of them right now, and if you prepare yourself well for them, and if you put in a lot of effort, and if you're really persistent, you can definitely get a job in programming. I really enjoy my job. I love my colleagues. I love the kind of work that I do. It's really fun, and I think that you would also find it fun if you enjoyed the things that we just did in the last few minutes. But I really want to emphasize that anybody can learn how to program, no matter how old you are, whether you are 7 years old or 99 years old. I think that anybody can benefit from learning how to program. See you guys next time, where we are going to talk about variables and what are variables and how to use them. All right, bye.